Want to know what the counters and cupboards look like at the end of a successful summer growing season? Well, come on, I'll show you. But before we do, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so that you don't miss any other upcoming cool videos. And be sure to smash that like button too, because I know you're going to like this one. We did it. We made it to the end of summer. Today is actually the first official day of fall. And I went out and harvested last night as much as I could, just so I could get one more summer officially harvest in. And my counters are full. On top of what I got last night, I pulled out some of the stuff I had stored in our garage fridge from our weekend harvest that I hadn't gotten a chance to process yet. So my counters are completely full, and I love these problems. I tend to spend more time in the kitchen this time of garden season than I do out in the actual garden, which is kind of a shame because the garden is beautiful right now. But there is so much to do to get processed. When we were getting really good at gardening, my biggest regret every season was how much food I let go to waste in the fridge. We'd pick it, I'd be so proud of it. We'd stick it in the refrigerator and forget about it. And then you pull it out and it's moldy berries and rotten tomatoes, and yeah, it was really disappointing. So I made a pledge to myself that I was going to try my very best to really harvest and preserve everything that we grew that we didn't eat right away. Because of course, we're growing it to eat it fresh. But I do love to have, in the middle of winter, a little bit of garden in my bowl. So let me give you a little tour of what we have going on. I have filled up my herb shelf behind me, which is beautiful. I have filled up my garden pantry, which I've shown you before in a previous video. This time it's all full of dried foods, dried beans, dehydrated foods. My wildcraft shelf I've now turned into just dried flowers and botanical bath salts I've been making all summer, made with fresh flowers. My infused vinegar cupboard is bursting at the seams with just way more than I'll ever need for the rest of my life, but I can't stop. And I have a cute little wildcraft shelf full of all of our little wildcraft collections, and then a pantry full of the food that I'm canning, which is a work in progress. And of course, I've got that freezer chock full. So let me give you a little tour of what I've got going and how I'm trying to preserve every last bit. Something I wanted to point out about all of this food here on the counter is that none of it came from our main kitchen garden. All of it came from our surrounding gardens, containers on our patio, our front yard garden, but none of it from the actual garden itself. Bursting the boundaries of the garden was really the coolest thing we've ever done. There are plenty of things growing there. We have a lot of our broccoli and cauliflower and all of our flowers and carrots and beans and things like that growing. But we have our tomatoes and our peppers grow in our upper garden, in our kind of nightshade garden, if you will. Grapes grow in the spa garden, along with most of our cherry tomatoes. Tomatoes have several places in our yard. Herbs have their own garden. Hawthorn berries, these are a wild berry that grow from the trees that line our backyard. Again, our peppers grow in our upper garden. Eggplants and zucchini grow in the front yard garden. And these super cool pumpkin on a sticks, that's what they're called. They're an ornamental eggplant. You can eat them, but they don't taste good. But what they're for is dried arrangement. So you just chop the stem off, cut all the leaves off, and then I'm going to hang them upside down to dry. And then I can use them in arrangements. So cool, right? So I'm growing my own food and my own Halloween decorations, and I'm loving every minute of it. While we're here in the kitchen, I thought I'd show you my favorite garden collection of all, my dried herbs and edible flowers and botanical infused salts. The only thing on this shelf that I did not grow, besides the actual salt, are the dried citrus peels and the bay leaves. Everything else you see came from the garden. And it's a combination of herbs like lemon balm, mint, wild violet. Of course, I have oregano and rosemary, all the basics. But I also have some really fun flowers up here too, like dried calendula petals, roses, dried whole violas, which are just so cool. Some echinacea. Those are sugar rose petals, those last 6 months. So a really fun collection. I go from growing these things from seed to caring for them to harvesting them to the drying process with them, and then I have the pleasure of cooking with them. So this is a part of my everyday life in some way, and it's just my favorite. Here's my latest growing collection. It's a mix of herbal and botanical culinary salts. I cannot stop making these. They are delicious and fun. I love the different colored salts, and I'm gonna layer them in cute little jars and give them away as Christmas gifts this year. So this is a really fun and easy way to preserve herbs and edible flowers from your garden. This one that's light lavender is made with purple basil. This one here, I have my labels on the back, in case you were wondering, is made with blue pansies and rosemary. The pansies don't really have any taste at this point, so I love to mix it with an herb as well, so you really get that rosemary taste. This one is my favorite to use. It is oregano salt. And then this beautiful one is made with roses, a deep purple. I've got calendula, orange violas that I used, and thyme mixed here. And then these down here are actually dried herbs mixed with salt. So you can do them both dried, or you can do them fresh, which gives you the color. Pretty cool, right? If you'd like to make your own botanical salts, you can find instructions how to over on my Instagram page at Big Family Living. This time of year, the fridge is also filled with garden goods. All kinds of things, from hot sauces like we have here and here, hottest hot sauce I've ever made, to grape juice. There's a little leftover grape juice. The rest I turned into jelly. We've got our quick pickles. Always have a couple of those to go, but I can most of them. Quick peppers as well, same deal, most are canned. If we're lucky enough to have pesto in the fridge, that's awesome. Even luckier if we're able to freeze some extra. These are jams actually that I just took out of the freezer to replace the ones we just had. This is strawberry lavender jam, and this one is a blackberry. And then we've got some tomato sauce back there right now that, again, just enough to eat, not enough to can. So it goes right in the fridge. But always evidence of gardening in the fridge this time of year. This is my my entertainment center turned garden pantry turned home for all of my dried goods. It's where I store all of our dried beans, our crushed backyard eggshells. We bake them and crush them and then feed them back to the chickens as a source of calcium. We also plant our tomatoes and peppers with them as well. And then I've got some overstock of edible flowers like lavender, and then all of my dehydrated foods as well, from tomatoes and peppers to cinnamon apple slices and strawberries and zucchini chips. There's so much you can do with the dehydrator and your garden. I love to dehydrate garden goods for a couple of reasons. One, they last on average about a year, which is excellent. Dried beans, of course, will last forever. Like when the apocalypse comes, I'm running to get the beans. But you can get a very long life out of your dried foods if stored properly. They should be stored with a tight-fitting lid or in a bag that seals, and they should be stored away from heat exposure, moisture exposure, light as well. Keeping them out of all of those elements will just let your food last longer. So I keep it in this cupboard and just open it up when I want to see. Another reason why I like it is huge space saver. It took a lot of peppers to get a pint of peppers. And that's okay because I'll be able to use them just the same. In the wintertime, I'll toss these in some chili or some stew or soup, or I will ground them up into a powder and use them as a rub or in a rub. For maybe some meat I'm marinating. So there's a lot you can do with your dehydrated foods as well. So great space saver, lasts a long time, and certainly looks good too. A peek at my dried flower and botanical bath salt collection. It is bursting this season. I really got on this botanical bath salt kick just like I did with my culinary salts. Turning bath salts colors from flowers. Yeah, sign me up. Not only that, but this beautiful purple bath salt made from red roses will turn your bath purple. So that's kind of cool. I have posted a previous video on how I dry all of my flowers, so do be sure to check that out if you're interested in drying your own. And if you'd like to make your own botanical bath salts, you can find instructions on how to make it over on my Instagram page at Big Family Living. My canning pantry is filling up, and oh, is it exciting to open the door and look at this collection. Very satisfying, but it's definitely a lot of work to can. We've got apple pie filling here. On top of that, I've got some Concord grape juice I've made. I have pears, more pears here, this time with cinnamon, lots of kosher pickles. I've got spicy pickles, sliced pickles, zucchini relish. That's some lilac honey that's not canned, just in here. Also some rose infused honey that's just in here. I've got canned lilac jelly and pickled peppers there, as well as my tomato sauce collection so far. I still have more grape jelly to add, grape juice to add, sauce to add, so we've got a ways to go yet. A rule of thumb when it comes to storing canning goods is that you should never stack more than 2 high. Some people even like to put a piece of cardboard or a piece of wood in between the 2 jars when they stack. The idea is that if you stack them, the seal can become compromised. I've never had a seal become compromised. I never stack more than 2. And I don't stack the big ones. As you can see, pints would be as big as I would go. But again, I've never had a problem. I do remove the bands from the bottom jars when I stack. That way, if for some reason the seal is compromised, I'll be able to tell. Bands is another controversial topic in the canning world. Some people say you should not leave them on. Again, I don't know. I'm a rule breaker. I left mine on unless I'm stacking on them. Then I'll take them off. So do your research on canning and storing canned goods and decide what method works best for you. Freezing your harvest is another great way to preserve it. I like to freeze all of my berries. I've got strawberries, blueberries, blackberries back there, and raspberries here. When you freeze your berries, you just want to lay them out on a parchment sheet or wax paper lined cookie sheet. Lay them out so that they're not touching, and then freeze them in the freezer until they are frozen. Then you can scoop them all up and put them in one big bag, but this way they will stay as individual berries when you freeze instead of one giant clump of berries. I also freeze my zucchini for baking in here. I shred it first, and then I store it in these little lunch bag size Ziploc storage bags, and I lay them flat so I can fit as many as possible. Pesto is another thing I always freeze. You can freeze pesto and jam like I've got here in the freezer in a glass jar. You just need to make sure you're using a wide mouth jar. It should also say on the packaging whether it's freezer safe. But again, freezing your harvest, if you've got the extra freezer space, is an excellent way to go. Thanks so much for joining me on this little tour of how I preserved this year's harvest. I hope it inspired you or gave you ideas on how you can better preserve your harvest too. Until next time, happy gardening.